And
Right.
so when you're in this place in your life and you're not standing up for yourself, you're not showing up for yourself, you're in the toxic relationship, the
Yep.
career you hate, you're not going and creating the life that you want, this is going to be very difficult for you to hear. You're not a child anymore. And you're not culpable for the dark things that happened to you. I promise you're not.
Right.
It's not your fault.
No.
But every decision you make from this moment forward, because now you know the truth, that's on you.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast you'll find on the internet. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you as always for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to connect with us through our social media channels, or you can subscribe on YouTube. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. And again, as YouTube, you can subscribe to our channel by hitting that bell down below, ding, 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 and you're connected to all good things audacious related. Now, in this episode of the podcast, we'll be talking about childhood trauma and specifically the long-term adverse effects it can have on our lives. Trauma coach, author, and podcaster Michael Unbroken joins us as we dissect the topic of childhood trauma through the sharing of his own powerful story. Now, he's the head of the Think Unbroken movement, which is has a very simple mission to end generational trauma in his lifetime through education and information so that children don't have to have a story like his. You know, Michael wants individuals to live a life where they're free of labels that often accompany those who experience childhood trauma. You know, they shouldn't have to experience shame or guilt for something that wasn't their fault. You know, he wants people to know that they may not have had control what happened to them in that moment, but they have complete control of what they do next to get past that situation. It's a great chat that I think you'll all enjoy. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Michael Unbroken. Enjoy. Michael, thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's great to catch up with you. I know we've been trying to coordinate for a little while, so I'm glad that we're here and we're making this happen, my friend.
It is my pleasure, brother. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today.
That's very cool. I love the Think Unbroken philosophy, mindset, or maybe we'll get you to describe that a little bit, but in terms of it opens up your mind into what's possible, right? Like, you know, in terms of how you choose to think, because I do very much think the way we think is a choice, right? And the way we choose to act, they're all choices that we make. So when you're consciously saying think unbroken, it's, you know, it's that subliminal message, if you will. So I wonder if we could start off, if you sort of talk about the brand and kind of how you landed on that and where you're going with it.
Yeah, well, you know, Think Unbroken was created because I recognize something to be true about the world, and that's that when people have mental health issues, when they come from backgrounds that aren't like your background, when people just kind of fit into the mold differently than everyone else, we get labeled as broken. And I always thought to myself, that's just not true. That's not who I am. That's not how I think. And it was kind of like a lightning bolt moment, like coming to Jesus, you know, 6 years ago, where I'm just laying at bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it just kind of hit me. And I was like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know where I'm supposed to go with my life. And that was because, you know, Think Unbroken's mission is very simple: to end generational trauma in my lifetime through education and information so that children don't have to have a story like mine. And so we write books, we put out podcasts, we coach people, we speak at events, we do everything. And so, you know, I'm the part of the company, but like I have some amazing team members who I could literally not do this
Right.
without.
Right. I very much like, as you're describing that, a point you made around people's backgrounds different, right, than yours. And sometimes because you're different, you're labeled. And that's really what it is when they say that you're broken. It's a label as opposed to it's just my journey and what I took to get to where I'm at.
Yeah, well, and it's nonsensical too because like everybody's got their stuff, man. Like I don't know, ain't nobody coming out of this unscathed. And those people who label others, those people who are super judgmental, they're the ones who need to do the work the most, right?
Yeah.
And look, I'll say this: I used to be that person. Like
Right.
I've been there, and so ultimately from a societal standpoint, it's kind of the same thing. You always see the Southern Baptist preacher who is anti-gay getting caught in the bathroom. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I
Right.
think about that so often that, the truth is we're all having this a human experience. We're all figuring it out and we're all making mistakes. But to
Right.
judge people like that feels characteristic of somebody who needs to do some massive work. Because I
Yeah.
promise you, man, I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna screw up. I'm gonna do the thing I said I didn't do. Like, the whole thing, it's gonna happen. But when you can find some empathy for yourself first, you can start to
Yeah.
deploy that into the world.
I love it. Empathy for yourself first. We oftentimes are our biggest critics. No one beats us better than we do at times. And I think if we can develop empathy for ourselves to kind of get us on a path where we need to be, I think we're better off for it.
Yeah, I wish somebody would taught me that when I was 8 years old.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. The other thing around those people that need to do some work themselves, I oftentimes find that those individuals are totally unaware of what they're carrying. They're totally unaware of how their actions, these negative actions, whether it be judgmental or whatever that action is that they're portraying on others, where that comes from. They don't know. And I think those people are probably the most dangerous ones.
Yeah. Well, and I used to be one of those people. For the sake of context, I'd love to tell my story here
Please,
because I think that'll, before I
please.
go into the rant of who it is that I am today, like I think that's important because my fear is sometimes people hear me on shows or on stage or read a book and not really understand what I come from. And
Understood.
so, a couple minutes here and I'll answer that question in a very deep way.
Yep.
So when I grew up in Indianapolis, in Indiana, in America, I grew up in this awesome country. My mother was a drug addict and alcoholic. In fact, when I was 4 years old, she actually cut off my right index finger. And people always go, well, how could your mom do that? And it was a continuation of trauma. You've heard that thing, hurt people, right?
Yeah.
And that's very
Yeah.
much what it was. And when I was 6, she married my stepfather, who was super abusive, the kind of guy you pray is never your stepfather. I mean, he kicked the crap out of my brothers and I, put me in the hospital a couple times, the whole nine. Spent the majority of my childhood homeless and deeply in poverty. In fact, we lived with 30 different families
Wow.
between 8 to 12 years old. So
Wow.
we were homeless, deeply in poverty. And when I was 12, my grandmother adopted me. Now you'd be like, oh, that's awesome. That's a godsend. So I'm biracial, black and white. My grandma's an old racist ass white lady from a town in Tennessee you never heard of. And in fact, so much so, we had a copy of Hitler's autobiography, Mein Kampf, on our kitchen table.
Wow.
So imagine the identity crisis and growing up in an all black neighborhood while this is happening. So I started getting high for the first time when I was 12, drunk when I was 13, and by 15, I was expelled from school for selling drugs. And I was breaking into houses, stealing cars, running from the cops, getting shot at, you name it, man.
Right.
And and luckily when I was 16 heading into 17, I got put into a last chance program. But I still didn't graduate high school on time. And in fact, which is so funny, is the year that I graduated, there was this thing from Harris Polls. It was a research study of the worst high schools in America called the Dropout Factories.
Okay.
And my school was in the top 100 that
Wow.
year.
Wow.
So I find myself in this weird position of I'm in summer school. The teacher goes, dude, I'm just going to give you the diploma. We're done with you. And me looking at my life and being like, all right, what am I supposed to do? And I made this declaration to myself. I was like, all right, I want to make $100,000 a year legally. The legal part was super important. I've been in handcuffs multiple times. I got family in prison for life. They are still there as we speak. And as of today, my 3 childhood best friends have been murdered. Dude, I knew where I was going.
Right.
It was only a matter of time.
Yep.
And so I thought to myself, all right, make $100,000 a year legally. How do you do that? I landed a job with a fast food joint. And at 18 years old, I became in leadership and I had 52 people under me. So I'm like a baby leading this team, making millions of dollars for this business. So I started learning business skills. I learned acquisitions. I learned inventory and shrink and how to read a P&L, all those things super young.
Yep.
And that still was never going to get me to that 100,000 mark. And one day I'm talking with a friend and he had just got a Tahoe. And dude, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Because you're from the same neighborhood I am. You went to the same high school as me. What's the game?
Right.
And he's like, I'm working for an insurance company. And I was like, oh my God, you can do that? Because I didn't know you could do that. Only thing I ever knew was buy here, pay here, fast food restaurants, you know, working the temp job, the warehouse gig. I did them all, man. I worked like 30 jobs over 3 years at one point.
Wow.
And I was like, that's my way to 100,000. And so I started learning more skills. I started writing resumes and cover letters and interviewing and hundreds of these over the course of the next 2 years. And as I was heading into 21, I landed a job with a Fortune 10 company.
Okay.
No high school diploma, no college education. And I started making that 6 figures. And then that thing that happens to people who have never had money happened to me. And I found myself by the time that I was 26 with my life being destroyed. And I was 350 pounds, smoking 2 packs a day, drinking myself to sleep and cheating on my girlfriend. And that's when I put a gun in my mouth. I was just, dude, I was done. I was like, man, I thought money was going to solve this. I thought this job was going to make life better. I thought money was going to be the solution, and it wasn't.
Right.
And so the next day I'm laying in bed. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. Now keep in mind, I'm 350. I'm eating chocolate cake, smoking a joint, and watching the CrossFit games. Like, bro, if that ain't rock bottom, I don't know what is. And for whatever reason, I got up and I went and looked in the bathroom mirror.
Yeah.
And I remember being 8 years old. And the water company had turned our water off.
Okay.
They were always turning our water off, turning off the heat, turning off the electricity, getting evicted.
Yep.
And it was this blistering hot Indiana August summer day, just nasty.
Yep.
And I took this little blue bucket from the backyard. I walked across the street to our neighbor's house. And for the first time, I stole water. And I remember being like, when I'm a grown up, this ain't going to be my life.
Right.
And it wasn't from a money standpoint, but I was still that hurt, lost little boy. And as I stood in the mirror looking at that, I recognized I wasn't keeping that promise to myself. And I asked myself, what are you willing to do to have the life that you want to have? And the answer was no excuses, just results. And what that meant in that moment was that I was going to stop negotiating with myself. I was going to stop taking it easy on myself. I was going to stop letting everybody else tell me who I was.
Right.
And 11 years later, here I am talking to you. Now, in that process, there's a ton of work. Therapy, group therapy, men's group therapy, trauma therapy, CBT, EMDR, the whole 9. It was coaching, getting a coach, personal development, reading the books, investing in myself, going to conferences. I have over 30 trauma-informed education certifications today. It was me diving in and going all in on myself with one mission, to change my life. And then that turned into end generational trauma in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's a big one. I want to go back because I love the question, what are you willing to do to live the life that you want? Like that's a big time question that you can't lie to yourself or make up something to answer that. And so to get to that point to even ask, I love it. I do. Michael, I think that's an important question to ask.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from, but if you're not willing to answer that question, good luck.
It's true.
For real. And I'm not trying to be crass. I'm not.
No.
But look, man, here's the truth. This is what people, especially in Western states, they don't want. Actually, the world. I've lived around the world, man. I've lived in 12 countries. I've traveled to 30. Like, I've been around the world. People are terrified of the truth. Because when you ask yourself a question like that and you're staring at yourself in the mirror, there ain't nobody to lie to. And guess what? The hard part about this truth is, look, everybody wants to play the victim. Yo, I get it. I get it. I played the victim for a long time. Trust me, you don't get to where I was without doing that really well.
Right.
And I looked at my life one day, and in that moment, I was like, no, I can't do this anymore because I'm not owning up to who I could be. Like, dude, I remember being a little kid, be like, I'm supposed to do something great.
Yes.
I promise you, getting stoned and eating chocolate cake ain't great. That is not changing the world. But people are waiting for a fucking Disney moment.
Right.
They're waiting for somebody to come and rescue them.
Right.
It ain't happening. You keep waiting, and good luck, because I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. I promise you. You're going to be on your deathbed.
Yeah.
And that last gasp, that right before it's over, you're going to use this word, regret.
Yep.
And I promise you that you will in that moment know that you've wasted your life.
Yep. That is a very difficult, hard reality to face, especially in that moment, Michael, to know that your life could have been so much more than what it was, but it was just withered away. And you didn't see, and the thing is, there's lots of markers and milestones and signs that we have. Some are right up in our faces, some are a lot more subtle, but we get them nonetheless. That show us or tell us or guide us, and it's up to us to recognize that. And when you get to that point, you've had them, you just ignored them, really.
Well, and look, and here's the truth. I want to lay this out in a practical way because people will hear and see me and go, oh, you're special. I'm not. I'm not. The only difference between me and you is that I'm willing to be publicly embarrassed at all times because I don't care what people think about me. You don't like me, you love me, I don't care either way because it doesn't have anything to do with me.
Right.
The only thing that I have to worry about is how I feel about myself when I'm by myself. One of the greatest things my mentor, Tom Bilyeu's, ever taught me. And the truth about it is, like, there is causation and correlation to everything.
Yes.
We are the sum total of all of our experiences leading up to this moment. That means, in a literal sense, every single thing that has ever happened in our lives leading up to right now informs who we are. And so think about this. If you grow up in an environment that says you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not capable enough, that'll be the same narrative you're playing in your adulthood.
That's right.
And here's what's so crazy about it too, is like you learn to not be you. You learn to turn yourself off, because the truth about childhood trauma is it's not even the pain. Like, dude, it's not even my finger getting cut off. It's not the abuse. It's not the homelessness. Like, that shit, I'm like, whatever about. The thing that childhood trauma is, it's the theft of identity.
Yeah.
Who you are is stolen from you.
Yeah.
And the truth is, the most dangerous thing I could do as a kid was have an opinion. The fastest way for me to get my head slammed into a wall was to ask for something I needed or wanted or was interested in. And so now think about this. This is where it gets crazy. This is the mind trick.
Right.
For a time that serves you when you're 8, 12, 17 years old, because guess what? The human brain is built on one thing: survival.
Yes.
And so the human brain looks at these and assesses these situations and says, okay, if I'm me, that means there's danger. So since my only job is survival, I can't let you be you, because then there's danger. And if there's danger, then that means that you're going to get physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually hurt. Okay, cool. Got it. I'm going to turn off. I'm going to become a robot. I'm going to like your favorite band. I'm going to bend. I'm going to appease. I'm going to placate. I'm going to do all the things. And then what happens is that time of which it serves you goes away.
Yes.
You're 22, 36, 74 years old.
Yep.
And you don't know how to say yes, and you don't know how to say no. And you're in a rudderless boat hoping that the breeze is going to take you somewhere. But it's not, because life doesn't actually work that way. So the thing that you have to recognize and understand is that it's entirely reasonable that you don't stand up for yourself. Why? Because every time you did, there was evidence that pointed to, you better not do that because your head's going to get slammed into a wall.
Right.
And so when you're in this place in your life and you're not standing up for yourself, you're not showing up for yourself, you're in the toxic relationship,
Yep.
the career you hate, you're not going and creating the life that you want, this is going to be very difficult for you to hear. You're not a child anymore. And you're not culpable for the dark things that happen to you. I promise you're not.
Right.
It's not your fault.
No.
But every decision you make from this moment forward, because now you know the truth, that's on you.
Yeah, as an adult, it absolutely is. And there's no other way around it. There's no one you can point the fingers at. There's no one else you can blame. It rests and lies with you. And I think when, we oftentimes talk about, being stuck, right? People get stuck in that space that they're in. And so, Michael, let's talk about the process of getting unstuck, then, knowing that all that we know, what we just talked about, and the examples you gave, which are very real and live, and many people are living that. What does the process of unstuck looks like?
You move.
Yeah.
This ain't rocket science. You move. Because look, action cures everything.
Sure.
Less so about being unstuck and more so about the willingness to face your fear. Because look, there's this thing in life called certainty. And certainty has always predicted this idea that as long as I know what I'm doing and what the outcome is, that I can do it. And the moment you want to flip that on its head and do the opposite, which is effectively the only way you're getting out of the place you're in now, is that you're going to have to face uncertainty. And uncertainty leads to fear, and fear leads you to this place of not moving. And unless you're willing to face your fear, nothing's going to change. And my homie Trent Shelton says it better than I think most anyone ever could. He goes, fear is just an acronym. It's face everything and rise, or face everything and run. And I was like, damn, that's so true, because guess what? Unless you do, nothing's different. You keep waiting for somebody. You keep on waiting. And guess what? You still going to be waiting in 30 years. You're still going to be waiting. Like nothing's going to be different. And so that's the thing about this. If you're like stuck, you already know what to do.
Yeah.
But you're not doing it because you're scared of the unknown outcome. We are more comfortable in the suffering of where we are now than we are in the willingness to step into the unknown.
That's powerful. Michael, say that again, because I'm telling you, that's a powerful statement, man.
Look, man, it's just true. We would rather suffer in a relationship that sucks. Oh, but we've been married for so long. And, oh, this job, I hate it. I can't. You know this person always complaining about their job. Oh, my job did this. My job did that. No, they didn't. You're the dummy who keeps showing up every day. Do something about it. Do something about your life. And look, I'm not trying to be a jerk, I swear to God, but I promise you, it ain't going to be different if you just sit around and complain. That's why there are no complainers in my life. None. Because I ain't trying to hear it. Because guess what? Everybody has an opportunity. If you're living and you're listening to this right now, do you know how advantageous it is to make an effort? You can have anything that you want, but you got to be willing to face that fear. And that fear of that unknown keeps people so frozen or stuck because they're unwilling to go through the suffering. But again, that comes back to being young and that being ingrained, embedded, and enmeshed in you, groomed into you. Because guess what? The unknown is, hey, mom, could you maybe not do drugs today so we can pay the bills? And you get smacked in the face. Right? Hey, teacher, I need to go to the bathroom. No, it's not time to go to the bathroom. And you pee your pants and you're embarrassed in front of everybody. It's being 12 years old and the football coach, you walk up to him, hey, coach, can I get in the game? No, you ain't good enough. And then you limit yourself forever because of what other people told you. The greatest thing I will ever teach anybody is this. When you discover the truth about what I'm going to tell you, you will find freedom. And this is true for me. I'm dead serious. I only do what I want to do. And I never do what I don't want to do. And that doesn't mean that I don't do the monotony. Because I promise you I do.
Yeah.
But it means simply, I'm not bending myself. Dude, if you hit me up and you're like, hey, man, you want to go to a country concert? I'm like, no, fool. I don't want to do that. But good luck to you. Enjoy it. And if you hit me up and you're like, hey, man, do you want to go and travel the world on this airplane that I just learned how to fly? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Why? Because I'm going to make the decision based on what I want through the scope of my values, which most of you don't have. So you need to sit down and figure that out. And then through my wants, needs, interest, and moral compass. When you have massive clarity about who you are and you're
100%.
willing to step into it while
Oh, man.
operating through the scope of this is acceptable and this is not, while simultaneously not only being patient, but not negotiating with your goals and
Yes.
moving forward with rapid action every single day, no matter what, on a long enough timeline, your life will be different. But if you want to sit here and complain, well, Godspeed to you.
Absolutely. You know, it's very much in line. We spend a lot of time in this podcast about being audacious and being bold and taking risks and stepping into that person who we're supposed to be. There's often, and fear is, I'm glad you touched on fear, because that is oftentimes a big reason why people don't go out and live their best audacious lives ever, because they're afraid of something. They think something may happen. They think someone might see them for who they think they truly are. And, you know, like, who knows? There's a bunch of things that are, you know, that goes on inside of our heads that are nowhere near the truth or reality. And I think oftentimes by listening to what goes on in there, that's the biggest letdown, disappointment we can commit on ourselves, because of the fact that we're preventing who we are from being the person that we're supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm scared every single day.
Good.
That's
a good thing.
Like literally the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I grab my journal, I write face fear. I don't know what it's going to be today, but it's coming, I promise. It might be my employees. It might be myself. It might be my partners. It might be friends. It might be circumstance. Something's coming.
Right.
You know, we woke up, there's terrible world news today. Fear is always there.
Yes.
It's always come, whatever. Like, people are like, here's what I think about. People are like, oh man, this pandemic, this ain't the first one. It won't be the last one.
No, it won't.
And you, like, I had the last 3 years of my life have been the best 3 years of my life, period.
Yep.
Because I'm not going to let it stop me.
Right.
But you got to be willing to have that thought process. You got to be willing not to negotiate. There are people who are like, man, the pandemic took everything. And then you got stuck in that because you were unwilling to face the fear of what was next and trying to go and get everything back.
That's right.
You're only used to ever doing the thing that you're used to doing. I'm only used to doing things I've never done before.
Right.
And that's the difference, right? And that's not all these big grandiose things. It's quitting coffee. It's not smoking cigarettes. It's going to the gym when I said I'm going to go. It's showing up on podcast on time. It's doing all the things. And that's the truth about it, right? This is a very, very simple game when you recognize that it's about one player.
Yep.
You.
Yeah.
I don't bend myself to the world.
Right.
The world bends itself to me.
Yes.
But that is only through the choices and decisions that I make. Because I promise you, if I was making the choices and decisions that I made 10 years ago, do you think you and I'd be talking right now?
Different outcome.
Yeah. So make different choices. You must decide who you want to be. I've chosen to be this person.
Yep. Michael, everything that you're saying, it goes right back to that choice that we have to make for ourselves. And oftentimes there's those that think they don't have the choice. It's not within their scope of control. And it absolutely is. It's something I've truly believed. I've always believed. You're reinforcing it again and again and again. We've seen tons of examples of people in the world that have made the conscious choice, whether it's to get better, to heal, to take a risk, to do something never done before. All of these things will put us on our individual path of greatness, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and again, people will look at those people and go, well, they're special. They're lucky. Luck has, I've only ever experienced this to be true. Luck only comes to the prepared.
Yep.
Luck only comes to prepared. Why do you think when fools hit the lottery, they lose it the next day? How many people do you know who have hit the lottery? I don't know anybody, but you always see the documentaries and stuff. All these people made all this money, and then they're broke 6 months later. They weren't prepared.
No.
They weren't prepared. The guy who got the promotion over you, oh, let me tell you about this one. The person who got that promotion over you, the person in business who's more successful than you, the person that you rag on all day instead of asking, how did you do that? The only reason that they're ahead of you is because they're prepared. They've been willing to sacrifice. They've been willing to ask the hard questions of themselves. You've heard this before. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. Instead of asking, why is my job doing this to me? Ask yourself, why am I in this job?
Right.
Instead of asking, why is my partner mad at me or cheating on me or lying to me? Ask yourself, what did I do to make this happen?
Right.
Massive responsibility, massive personal responsibility is so important. Dude, I blame myself for everything. Even like, I know this is going to sound insane, but everything that happens in the world, I blame myself for, because I look and I think to myself, what could I have done differently that could
Yeah.
have changed the sands of time?
Fair enough.
How could I have shown up more authentically? How could I have put that book out faster? How could I made that podcast quicker? How could I put that information into somebody's hands so they didn't make that wrong decision? Everything is my fault. Period. Period.
I
And
get
y'all
it.
are out here blaming everybody else, and that's why your life isn't different.
Right. And I get it. We should be blaming you, Michael. It's all right. We come back to you.
Look, it's all my fault, man. If I'm in the car and
Yep.
5 cars up from me crash and I hit the car that's the 6th car is me and I crash in that's my fault.
Right.
If I would have left 38 seconds earlier, I'd have missed the whole thing.
Right. I get it. And what I love about that is you know, you're doing something that a lot of people don't want to do, and that's take accountability and take responsibility for stuff. And you know, I think that's part of this other piece of what keeps people unstuck or prevents from healing is they don't want to take accountability for, you know, their part to play in their own story. Right?
Yep.
So that's kind of what it is.
Well, keep doing that and watch things be the same.
That's
The thing. Like, this
right.
ain't a trick. Look, man, this isn't some magic formula.
No.
This ain't the secret. This
No.
ain't look, I mean, it's nothing but fact. Go look at anyone who has a different life from the life that they started with, or a different life today than they did 6 months ago. Your life can be so different in 3 days.
Sure. Oh yes.
Your life can be so different in
Absolutely.
5 minutes.
Yep.
But you got to decide.
That's right. That
You
choice
can't
is
just
yours.
keep sitting around. And people are always complaining like, oh, I'll never make the money. I'll never have the partner. I'll never have the things. What have you done to earn those things?
Right. That's right.
What have you done? You want the money, learn the skills. You want the partner, be the kind of partner that a partner like that would want. Right?
Yep.
That's how this works.
Right.
Personal accountability. And it's difficult, especially if you come from a traumatic background, because you're going to have to face the truth. And the truth is, you haven't shown up for yourself because nobody taught you how. And now you have to figure it out. And it's super difficult because there ain't no syllabus. Well, I mean, I kind of created one, but like realistically, there ain't no book. No, here's the guide to life. Good luck.
Right.
It doesn't exist. We're all constantly falling and faltering. But when you're willing to accept failure as lessons instead of a judgment against your character, your life will be different.
Yes.
Because I'm going to mess up. I promise you. I said it a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
We all are. And
Yep.
so you can mess up going forward or you can mess up going backwards. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather fall forward.
Absolutely. It's called progress, and that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. You know, you talked about, you know, you've created a syllabus. You know, the thing about that is you still have to make that conscious choice and take that action to step forward, right? So it's almost like, you know, we can write all the books and the blogs and the podcasts and the videos, but if you're still not going to take action and follow the wisdom or listen to the advice or take ownership of things, it doesn't make sense. You might as well not read them or watch them or listen.
Dude, only 2% of people finish books they start.
Huh?
Do you know what's also in common with that 2% of people?
What's that?
Those people, the top 2% of people who finish the books that they start on average are the highest earning individuals on planet Earth. Go look at the statistics. The average CEO in this country, in America, who makes over $300,000 reads on average 50 books a year.
Nice.
And you're watching YouTube all day.
That's right.
You're TikToking all day. You're talking about, I'm going to start my side hustle all day. You ain't doing nothing. Go educate yourself. Now, look, I'm also the person, no joke, would not spend $5 on a book to save my life.
Okay.
You rewind my life, 20, 22, 24, 25, 26, you couldn't beg me to buy a personal development book. In the last 7 years, I've read probably 500 books. Amazing. Last year, 62. I'm only going to do 50 this year. I'm a little more busy, but I've already got 7 in the pipe, and we're only into March or February, right?
Right.
And so the truth about this is the education is here. People are like, well, I don't have money. Good. I'm glad you don't have money, because that means that you're going to be willing to do more than people who have money.
Exactly.
Let me tell you this. I promise you, I've read more books from the library for free than I have bought. So you need to stop making excuses and start looking for solutions.
That's it.
Because guess what? You're going to have to educate yourself out of poverty, out of homelessness, into wealth. This past year, I spent almost a little bit more than, and this is not a flex, an Ivy League degree worth of money on personal development.
Amazing.
And I have a theory.
Amazing.
And look, it's a compounding effect.
Yep.
And I have a theory. I cannot prove this, but it's something that came to mind when I was on a show the other day. I was like, you know what? I bet on a long enough timeline that every $1,000 you invest in yourself will be returned as 100,000. But people are out here copping J's and PlayStation. I saw this dude on Facebook literally just spent like $800 on a PlayStation. If you put that into yourself, you could have flipped that into 80,000.
Of course you can. Of course you can. You can't.
And that's the thing. People have this scarcity mindset, man. The video games ain't real life. The J's, nobody cares. You drive a Honda, great. No one cares about your car. I promise you. But if your life is miserable and you're looking in the mirror every single day and you're unhappy, you need to assess the decisions that you're making.
That's right.
Because I promise you, like today, I'm thinking about my life in 37 years from now. It's going to take me a lot to get there. Sure. I'm at 1%. The game just loaded.
That's right.
And I've been doing this for 6 years.
That's right. Right. No, Michael, you're bang on everything that you're saying. I 100% agree with you. Piece I want to touch on, and I have to get in because I think it's really important. You know, all the things that we're talking about and we have been talking about in this conversation, it is pointing to one very important direction, and that's our internal peace and happiness, right? Like that's what we're that's the ultimate goal. Living a life of peace, happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction. There's a whole bunch of words that we can insert into that, right? But we have to be willing to do a whole bunch of stuff that we just talked about in order for us to get there.
Yeah, look, dude, fulfillment's everything. It's like I think about this every day. If I wake up tomorrow and I don't want to do Think Unbroken anymore, I'm out. I'm out. Because I don't want to sacrifice myself. I don't want to put myself in this position of being unhappy, right? And I work, dude. I'm a worker. I work more than anybody you know. I promise that. But like I work in this place of fulfillment. I work of this place of building, of creating, of moving towards a direction of having massive clarity. Yep. And so if you don't have fulfillment, I had a mentor teach me this a very long time ago. He's like, if your life sucks, go make other people's lives better. And that's true. And it's held true for me. And so if you're in this place, you're down, you're downtrodden, you're depressed, go be of service. I dare you to go serve food to people who are less fortunate than you. While you're eating $80 dinners. Right. Going to Applebee's, whatever you do, right? I mean, like, look, fulfillment's everything in life. If you're not happy, there's no point in doing any of this. Right. But that comes back to everything we're talking about. Like, I'm not going to work a job I'm not happy in. I'm not going to be in a relationship I'm not respected and happy in. I'm not going to be in friendships that are toxic that I'm not happy in. I'm not going to do that. Right. I refuse it. So that's the thing about making decisions. Decisions mean, and this has been going around a lot recently, but to decide means to cut. You're going to have to give something up to get what you want. Yep. My homie and mentor Grant Cardone taught me that. What are you going to give up? Right. You're going to have to give up that mindset. You're going to have to give up that work ethic. You're going to have to give up that relationship that doesn't serve you. You're going to have to give up that spending habit that got you in debt. Right. You're going to have to give up some things. You might have to give up not going to the doctor because you haven't taken care of your health. Right. There's a lot, but look, it's all going to come down to clarity. You're going to have to build yourself. And if you want fulfillment, it's going to be a minute, but you can have it. I promise. You can. Yep. You just got to go get it. You just got to go and get it.
and also claim and Mike, Michael, I want to say first off, this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you being here. And one last thing I wanted to touch on before we go, really around talking about going and get it, but going and get it and living that life that we would deserve to have. Oftentimes there's too many thinking that's not meant for me, or I'm not supposed to, or I'm not worthy, right? But we absolutely, this is for us. We've just got to go and get what it is we have, because I believe that we've got that capacity to do whatever it is we want. We just got to go and get it.
Yep, 100%. And I hope that you do, and I hope that you feel inspired to go and do it, and I hope that you decide to be disciplined and get clear about who you are and create values in your life that you move through, because these are practical things that if you do them, and they're things we're not taught.
Right.
But if you're willing to absorb this and then listen to this 8,000 times, right? Because you're going to have to reabsorb it. I mean, right. I've read some books like 5 times, 10 times, because I still don't get it.
Right.
That's what it's going to take. Just a huge amount of discipline and you giving yourself permission to be successful.
For sure. Michael, this is a great conversation. I really appreciate you hanging out with me here on the podcast. And my hope, wish, and dream is that listeners walk away, even if it's just one thing that they take from and make that change in their own lives, or even use this conversation as a spark to analyze themselves. I think we've done a great thing. So I appreciate you for being a part of this. For our listeners that want to learn more about you or check out your work, your podcast, your blogs, where can we send them?
Yeah, and thank you, my friend. It's a pleasure being here. I really appreciate it. I'm everywhere on social media at Michael Unbroken, and you can listen to the Think Unbroken podcast. Just search Think Unbroken on iTunes or Spotify, or go to thinkunbrokenpodcast.com. Everything I teach is there for free. No joke, all of it.
Awesome. That's amazing. And from one podcaster to the next, I know that's not an easy journey to podcast. There's a lot of work people don't recognize. And so I congratulate you on the work that you do. Congratulate what you're about to do, and all the things that you keep on going. Stay blessed, my friend, and be well.
Thank you, my friend.
Back we are here on the podcast, and it was great to have Michael joining us and sharing his story, and even just generally talking about the impact of childhood trauma and the importance of taking action sooner rather than later, so that we can take control of our lives and not let a situation control us. I'll also be sure to check out his Think Unbroken podcast as well. Really powerful stuff. And again, thank you, Michael, for being here. When I reflect on our conversation, Michael left us with a lot of great stuff. And if there's just one thing that I take from my conversation with him, it would be this. At some point or another, we all experience some form of trauma in our lives. In most cases, the trauma that happens to us during our childhood could have long-lasting adverse effects that ripple and stay well with us into our adult lives. The consequences of untreated trauma often can result in long-term stress and anxiety, which can cause physical symptoms as well as emotional issues. It can harm a person's sense of safety, their identity, their ability to regulate emotions, or possibly navigate new or existing relationships. As with most things in our lives, childhood trauma doesn't go away on its own and requires intentional and deliberate action. One of the best ways we can do this for ourselves is to try and process the trauma with help and support from a professional. Understanding long-term impacts of trauma can also help you turn things around and enable you to live your best, audacious life ever. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so simply by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com, enter in your email address, and you'll be alerted every time there's brand new content that comes out. Sadly, we've reached the end of another episode of the podcast, but as always, we're back. We will be back again. You can count on that. I also want to thank my audacious listeners, all those lovers of audaciousness, for that ongoing support. It's always been tremendous and so much appreciated. So thank you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.